23 million living veterans have been wired for war, but never rewired to come home. Cry Havoc is a one-person play by a military veteran who seamlessly interweaves Shakespeare's most famous speeches with personal experience to help us understand the national crises we face when we fail in integrating our veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cry Havoc.
Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this. Montana, midnight. I'm standing outside between two passenger cars. Our train is slowly grinding its way up the Rocky Mountains. I want a better view, so I climb up in between the two passenger cars, and I sit on top of the train. There's a full moon. I can see perfectly. Pristine snow-capped mountains from horizon to horizon. The grasslands behind us that took days to pass through. A herd of something grazing in a clearing off in the distance. I can smell the bark on the trees. Oh, that crisp mountain air. The occasional blast of diesel exhaust from the engine. It's 1991 and I am AWOL from the Army, which is unbelievable because I worked so hard to get into the Army. Now here I am, nearly 6 years into my career, and I'm running away. Why? What the hell is wrong with me? What the hell is that? Cross pole! Ning, 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 ning. 1967, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Gene McMullen Wolfert's womb. I'm just a fetus. But I'm drinking a vodka gimlet. One of many. You see, Mother Jean has already had 3 kids and a miscarriage, nearly fatal. She doesn't want another one of either. I'm a mistake. But what are her options? So, like a good Irish Catholic in the late 1960s, she's having a few drinks. Besides, the doctors tell her I won't live. They assure her I'll never come to term, and if I do come to term, I'll be stillborn. And if by some miracle I'm not stillborn, I won't come out normal. Ta-da! 9 months later, she shoots me out and spends the rest of my childhood ignoring me, while love forswore me in my mother's womb. 7 years later, Breezy Point Tavern's parking lot. It's below zero. I'm in my father's Ford pickup truck. He's in the bar, drinking. I'm being punished. Here's our routine. He picks me up after school and drives me here, to Breezy Point Tavern, where I sit next to him, quiet, invisible, until, all right, old buddy, old pal, help your old man up. Hey, you're not going to tell your mother we were here, are you? No, Dad. You give your word of honor? Yeah, Dad, I give my word of honor. Because once you give your word of honor, you got to keep it. That's what buddies do, right? Yeah, Dad, I give my word of honor. Did your father take you to the bar? Don't lie to me. Did he take you to Breezy Point Tavern? No. Why are you lying to me? I can smell the smoke on your clothes. Go to your room. Why would you honor your mother? You're grounded. So she is punishing me for lying to her, and he is punishing me for ratting him out. Therein do men and children seldom differ. 8 years later, Logan High School, wrestling practice. I'm a freshman. I'm 5'1", 95 pounds. Ne'er ye a hair of manhood to be discovered on this body. I'm in top position over a sophomore, about 155 pounds. The coach blows the whistle. The guy grabs my head with one arm, grabs my legs with the other arm, stands up, flexes me over his back like a rag doll, jumps up in the air and body slams me on the mat. Tears my diaphragm, contuses my spine in 2 spots. I'm paralyzed from the navel down. Within a few days, I'm able to walk again, but muscle spasms have deformed and contorted my body so that I lean to the right and slightly back. I walk with a limp, and I have to carry my spine just so, because if I don't, hey, Wolfie, yeah, I re-injure the spine and have to start all over again. Admission to the rehabilitation ward of Lutheran Hospital. No, not that rehab ward, at least not yet. No, this is for stroke patients, where I, at the age of 15, am admitted with senior citizens recovering from strokes, where I receive physical therapy that feels more like marathon torture sessions as they grind on muscle spasms that are so calcified they appear on bone scans and x-rays. Pool therapy, transcutaneous electrical nerve therapy, occupational therapy. I needed it. And then they discharge me to continue this routine. And for the first time in my life, it feels as though my mother is paying attention to me. Not the fire and brimstone speeches of my youth. You know, the, don't do that or you'll burn in hell for eternity. I always wait to see if there's any Irish Catholics in the room. Or do this for your mother, it's my dying wish. Besides, if you don't, you'll burn in hell for eternity. No, this is nourishing, nurturing, inspiring even. My father, by this time, had become the kind of alcoholic that Eugene O'Neill would have been impressed with. 2 to 3 glasses of vodka, first thing when he woke up. Well, he didn't wake up so much as snap out of a drunken coma due to withdrawal symptoms, then drag his rebelling body to the cabinet under the kitchen sink where we stored the vodka. And by the early 80s, he was shaking so badly he couldn't even pour it for himself. So I, home from school, would limp over and pour it for him. What a pair we make, huh? And as any child of an alcoholic will tell you, I tried every trick in the book to break this routine. But alas, as they say, 2 to 3 proper glasses and then morning. Off he'd go to continue his routine. And my second oldest brother, Bob, who's laid off, my idol, and yet he's home, angry, taking it out on me on occasion. Let's just say I want out of this asylum known as the Wolfert household. I spend the next 2.5 years making a full recovery, and I graduate high school. Now what? Well, I dream of moving right here to New York City to become a dancer. But I am from La Crosse, Wisconsin, specifically the north side of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Where I'm from in those days, this is for fags. And I don't have the courage to stand up to that, so now what are my options? I could go away to college, to one of those gorgeous campuses I saw in the catalogs with the sprawling green campuses and the perfectly manicured hedges, right? And the winding sidewalks covered in gorgeous college co-eds, just beckoning me to attend their school. Apparently, they're all newly born cults. I'm not sure what this is. Pristine, stone-cut buildings that are so gorgeous, I am convinced I will become more intelligent just by walking through the door. But I'm the youngest son of a working-class family. They can't afford that. And even if they could, I'm number 4 on the financial totem pole, so now what are my options? Well, I could go to the local college, University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and live at home, which I did for a couple of years. Or I could join one of the labor unions. My friends are all doing it. Construction, warehouse. It's good enough for them. Why not me? But I joined the Army. Well, I tried to join the Army because even they don't want me due to my back injury. But I camp out on the doorstep of the Minneapolis MEP station day and night for a week straight till they got sick of me. Shipped me off to basic training at Fort McClellan, Alabama. And now here I am. Nearly 6 years later, on top of a train. I have everything I thought I wanted when I joined the Army. I enlisted as a medic. They sent me back to college, got me my college degree, made me an officer. I'm an airborne air assault infantry officer being offered a 20-year commission. And I'm running away? Why? What the hell is wrong with me? Cross pole! Ning, 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 ning. Fort Irwin, California, midnight, no moon. I'm on an APC, armored personnel carrier, with my best friend Marcus. Roger, you guys ready in that right flank yet? That's a negative or no go over. Roger out. 0103, we are on the standby. I say again, we are on the standby. Over. Roger, understand, standby. Roger out. Driver, hold position. We are on a night live fire for Bradley fighting vehicles. Marcus is in charge. I'm just along for the ride. We had been through a lot together. Infantry officers basic course, Ranger school, the first Gulf War, and now this. Desert training for the second wave of the first Gulf War, should it be necessary. Roger, we're ready in this right flank. Roger, stand by. 0103, permission open all lanes. Roger, all lanes are open. Roger out. Driver, here we go. All lanes are open. I say again, all lanes are open. Commence firing. The pitch black night sky explodes with countless Bradley fighting vehicles firing their 35mm tracer chain gun ammunition downrange. Sparks fly from the barrels. Red and purple streamers flow in every direction from the tracer rounds. It looks like a battle scene from a sci-fi film. Some of the tracers are bouncing off the targets and up into that pitch black night sky. Some are bearing into berms and starting little fires. The vehicles rumble and lumber under their huge heavy load, rattling on those steel tracks, firing and maneuvering into the range. Spent gunpowder and diesel exhaust pours into our open turret. The radio explodes with people screaming. Some are yelling orders. Troop to the up at 2 o'clock, 250 meters. Some are just yelling, hoo-ah! This is the shit we lived for. Firing all of our ammunition at night with nobody shooting back. On the right flank, one of the Bradleys mistakes our observer controller vehicle for a target, turns the turret and begins firing. Check fire, goddammit! 0103, we're taking friendly fire. Close the range, I say again, close the range. Driver, back us up off the berm. That's friendly fire you feel. Now, this is a roughly 10-ton homogeneous steel vehicle, but it's bouncing around like a Volkswagen Beetle being bashed with sledgehammers. It's designed to protect against small arms fire, like pistols and rifles. These are 35mm tank killers. Luckily, they're the target rounds, the non-explosive. Otherwise, we'd be dead already. And the guy's a horrible shot. Most of the rounds are hitting the ground first and then bouncing up off the side of the track. But it was inevitable. One of the rounds finally punches through the armor, bounces around inside the track, and hits Marcus right in the face. Check fire, God damn it! 0103, we need a real-world medevac. I say again, we need a real-world medevac. We have a casualty. Driver, back us up to the medic stand. To the on-site medic, drop the hatch. Marcus is hit. He has a pulse. And I can tell he's breathing because his chest is rising and falling. And all I can think is, thank God, because I couldn't find his mouth to breathe for him if I had to do CPR. His head is like an overinflated water balloon, covered in flesh, being held together by my hands and the helmet, jiggling as we race to the on-site medic stand. We arrive, drops the hatch. All that spent gunpowder and diesel exhaust pours in. Medic shows up and freaks out, can't get the IV in, so he packages up Marcus while I put the IV in. And after what feels like a lifetime, medevac finally arrives. UH-60 Blackhawk, I can tell just by the sound. And as it lands, it pushes all of that idling diesel exhaust inside the track, along with its own jet fuel exhaust. They grab him, load Marcus up on the bird, and off he goes. Nothing but a disappearing strobe light in that pitch black night sky. So foul and fair a night I have not seen. His heart beats for another few days. But by the end of the next week, I'm handing a folded flag from his coffin to his weeping widow and 2 baby girls. Madam, on behalf of the President of the United States of America and a grateful nation, I present you with this token of appreciation for your loved one's faithful and honorable service. But break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. Cross pole. Ding, 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 ding. Shh. Yeah. Shh. Yeah. Our train has just passed over the Continental Divide, and we are descending the west side of the Rocky Mountains. And as the train is consumed by this dense layer of fog and the moisture from it soaks through my clothes, I decide to hop off at the very next stop. Stumptown Station, also known as Whitefish, Montana. I'm sitting on a handmade wooden bench that's part of a handmade wooden deck that's in front of a handmade wooden railroad station, the original from when they built the railroad through Montana. This bench, this deck, and this railroad station, and the original buildings built in the area were built from lumber cut right here, hence the nickname Stumptown Station. And as the sun cooks off that dense fog in layers like curtains, it dramatically reveals this big mountain that was right there. And its name, I shit you not, is Big Mountain. Because they have a knack for naming things in Montana. And as I sit there breathing that crisp mountain air, the bark on the trees, the bench, the deck, the railroad station, even those long gone rotting stumps, it's nothing like La Crosse, Wisconsin. Nothing like Fort Benning, Georgia, and certainly nothing like Fort Irwin, California. So I grab my rucksack and I start exploring this town of 4,000 people. And I end up in a theater. Not a movie theater, but a proper playhouse where they enact plays. Me, the youngest son of a working class family who had never even been to a play before. Me, the infantry officer. I'm supposed to be a manly man, doing manly things in a manly manner with other men. Me, the youngest brother of Bob Wolfert, who once caught me doing ballet in the basement. We had an old black and white TV, yeah? And it was before cable and satellite, kids. So we had antenna, and I had to put tinfoil on the antenna just to alleviate enough static so that I could make out the moves. What are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing? I'm screwing around, Bob. What are you doing? I'm dancing, all right? Come here. No, come here! Get up. No, get up. I'll beat your ass lying down or standing up. Now get up! Why are you doing this, Bob? Because I don't want you to be a homo. So I bought a ticket to a play because men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, lies not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. And besides, fuck Bob. So I bought a ticket to a play, checked my rucksack, took my seat, just as the house lights are fading. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this sun of York, and all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking-glass, I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why, I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasure of these days. I was transfixed. There I sat in the audience, yet there I stood on stage. Like me, a soldier. Like me, conceived, gestated, born, and raised at a time of national war. For me, it was the American War in Vietnam. For Richard, the War of the Roses. Okay, sure, my family wasn't murdering each other to become the King of England. But but some days it felt like they might. Like me, deformed. He even had the same posture I had when I was paralyzed in high school, to the right and slightly back. And like me, in spite of our deformities, joining the military and excelling. And like me, finding that military service is probably now over. And like me, wondering, now what? Now what? Who am I now? And as the play goes on and we meet his mother, their relationship, Shakespeare, Booby, call me, we should talk. Richard is on his way to war. Nothing can stop him except Richard. Mother? You know that movie Ghostbusters? I'm actually asking you. I can see you. Yes? No? Good, excellent. And I mean the original, not the sequels. Yeah? There's a moment in that. You remember the moment in the movie where they say, do not cross the streams of your Ghostbusters guns, because if you do, all life will stop and every molecule in your body will explode at the speed of light. That's what happened to me watching this play, hearing this poetry, feeling this rhythm in my body, seeing a veteran on stage. I couldn't sleep that night. Well, I rarely slept in those days anyways, but that night it was because I had a mission. That mission was to be at the bookstore the instant that they opened so that I could buy the book. Richard I, by this Shakespeare fellow. And I don't get the no fear Shakespeare, you know, that has the explanations on the other side. No, I get the Oxford, and I start reading it, and I can't understand a goddamn word. So I rent the movie, and I follow along, and that Ghostbusters feeling continued and grew inside me, so much so that I reported back to the Army and resigned my commission to go to graduate school for acting. I gave up. Two people were going to help me pay off my student loans. And in graduate school, I'm going through these Shakespeare plays, and I'm finding a veteran in every single play. Not just the tragedies and histories, as one might imagine, but the comedies, the romances. I'm seeing, if not my experience, the experience of my brothers and sisters that I served with, and I'm meeting now. And I realized something else in graduate school, that I'm different than my classmates. I'm the only veteran. I respond differently if a truck goes by the rehearsal hall and shakes the walls of the rehearsal hall. I respond differently if a window's open and the diesel exhaust from that truck pours into that rehearsal hall. I respond differently if a helicopter flies over. I don't think they even notice. I can focus on nothing else. I respond differently if someone makes a loud noise that I didn't see coming. Like those, you know those big blue rectangular mats that they fold up like an accordion? You know what I'm saying? Yes, good. And apparently they're only used in like preschool and acting school. Well, they are. We had stacks of these things. And excuse me while I adjust my microphone. Oh, the illusion of theater's gone. We had stacks of these bastards, and my classmates used to love throwing them up in the air so that they landed flat on the ground. Oh! And even now, just remembering that, just that sound, it just tightened my stomach, my eyes, my mouth would go dry, my heart would pound. I wondered what the hell is wrong with me, because I wanted to tear apart the mat that made the noise, tear from limb to limb the person through the mat, and tear the flesh off of anybody who laughs at me for my reaction. What the hell is wrong with me? I was a sensitive little boy that wanted to be a dancer, and now I'm this. 20 years of asking what the hell is wrong with me, going through these plays by Shakespeare, working with classical actor training and the human sciences. After all of that, I've come up with a theory of what the hell is wrong with me. And in fact, the human sciences have helped me transform that into what happened to me. Well, I believe what happened to me is what happened to all veterans in this country. We were recruited at a psychologically malleable age. Then we were wired for war. But at the end of our military service, we were not unwired from war. We were not rewired for society. And then, to making matters worse, we're severed, amputated from our community of comrades, our structure, our mission, our purpose, our support, and put back into communities from which many of us fled. After all, 70% of all draftees and volunteers come from working class families. And we're put right back into communities that do not know how to deal with this, do not understand our experience, and we don't know how to adjust. No training. But let me focus on the wiring. What do I mean by wired for war? Well, the military takes people from all over the country, different abilities, different backgrounds, different intellectual levels, although you must be able to comprehend at least a 6th grade education level. They bring us together, and what do they do with the men, at least the men? The first thing they do, shave our heads. Why? Nobody's got gray hair or ugly hair or cool hair. We're all just cue balls. Then they take away our civilian clothes and put us in uniforms to become part of a unit. One, yes? Monochromatic outfits, if you will. All worn the exact same way, pressed the exact same way, buttoned the same way. The patches are all identical on them. Even the laces on our boots are all tied the exact same way. The way we stand, heels together, toes apart at a 45-degree angle. Legs straight, but do not lock your knees because you will pass out. Arms at your side. Not back like Gomer Pyle. Not out like wings. You're not going to fly away. Elbows pointed to the back, arms at your side. Hands closed but not clenched in the fist. Thumbs on the seams of your trousers. Head and eyes locked to the front. I said locked to the front, Wolfert. What are you looking at? Nothing. Nothing. You were looking right at me, Wolfert. You calling me nothing? No. No, what? Were you about to say no, you asshole? No, sir. Don't sir me. God damn it, I work for a living. It's no drill sergeant. No, drill sergeant. Wolfert, yes. Drill sergeant. Get down and beat your face. What? Beat your face! You smartass, when you screws up, you all pay the price. Front lean, rest position, move. I will count the cadence. You will count the repetitions. Ready? Exercise. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 3. We go up in pitch at the end, remember? And your basic training's only 12 weeks long. Position of a tin can, move! You can assume position of a tin can, get back down! Ready! Exercise! 1, 2, 3, 1! 1, 2, 3, 2! 1, 2, 3, 4! Position of attention, who told you to move? Get back down! Ready! Exercise! 1, 2, 3, 1! 1, 2, 3, 4! Position of attention. Do not anticipate, do not delay. As a unit, move. Too slow, get back down. On feet, fall in. Dress right, dress. Eyes front. That's just to learn how to stand. That was easier when I was 18. I'm nearing 50. Give me a break. I can smell wind. But I'm trying to create what I call the Labrador reflex, like the breed of dog. You can pick whatever breed you want, just no chihuahuas. Because they must be highly disciplined dogs. We have Labradors, and even though they're sitting, they're not relaxed because I'm holding the ball. Their stomach is churning, their central nervous system is vibrating, their eyes are glistening, their breath is heaving. And if they could speak, they'd be saying, throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball, stay, throw the ball, stay. Let me go, stay, go get it. Takes off, grabs the ball, comes toward the back, drops it, throw it again. That's what they need. They need us to respond to orders without thought. They need us to need the orders. Then they transform that, the respond to orders without thought, into respond to a threat with violence. What do I mean? Bayonet training, hand-to-hand combat training, rifle training, every branch, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, and stop it. You can always tell the other four, like, the bastard child Coast Guard. The poor bastards, they risk their ass every day too, y'all. And they all, including us, and regardless of what job that you do, water purification specialist, nurse, or infantryman, everyone learns how to fire the rifle. To kill. What? Not deer and bear or rabbits or anything. No. Humans. Human silhouettes pop up. They're just a target. A threat. A threat. Threat. Weeks and weeks we train this. And then for those of us who go infantry, they continue this training. We conduct what's called combat drills, pre-canned responses to certain stimuli. For example, incoming! I'm on the ground before they finish the word. They work on this until it's just automatic wiring. Fire ambush, return, fire violently, take cover, fire and maneuver, eliminate the threat. Notice the order. Return, fire, take cover. Notice the words, the verbiage, the language. Clear the objective. Not kill people, but rather terminate the enemy. You know? For weeks and weeks we do this. And by this time I'd become an infantry officer, and I had my own team. And I was convinced that in my first firefight I would be like one part Rambo and one part John Wayne. Right? Invincible to bullets, standing, returning fire violently, giving orders with command and authority. Go and get 'em, pilgrims. Yes, I know, if I actually spoke like that, they'd shoot me in the back, but you get the idea. But the truth is, the bullet ripped by my body, and I ducked behind a tree and tried to bury myself like one of those sea creatures that lives at the bottom of the ocean, and when they're scared, they bury themselves in sand until it's safe, and then they keep eating plankton. You know? So I ducked behind this tree and realized, oh shit, I'm in charge. If I don't do something, my men die. Shoot back! Alpha team, online, M60 on me, lay down suppressive fire. Bravo team, bound around to the right flank and kill those fuckers. Once more onto the breach, dear friends, once more! Or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the actions of the tiger. Stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favored rage. Then lend the eye a terrible aspect. Let it pry through the portage of the head like the brass cannon. Let the brow o'erwhelm it as fearfully as doth a galled rock, or hang and jutty his confounded base, swilled with the wild and wasteful ocean. Now set the teeth and stretch the nostril wide. Hold hard the breath, and bend up every spirit to his full height. On, you noblest English, whose blood was fed from fathers of war-proof. Fathers that, like so many Alexanders, have in these parts from morn till even fought, and sheathed their swords for lack of argument. Dishonor not your mothers. Now attest that those whom you called father did beget you. Be copy now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. And you, good yeomen, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the mettle of your pasture. Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is none of you here so mean and base, that hath not noble luster in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George, follow me! God for Harry, England, you're not following me. Why? What the hell? Leaving me to my death. Because we're in a theater. There's no threat there, and you've not been Labradored, or at least most of you. But let's say we all were Labrador, just for the sake of argument. Let's say we're not in the theater, but on the field of battle. And let's say that we've all been Labradored. And let's say you were able to overcome your natural human instinct to run from danger and actually run towards the danger. My question for you is, once you arrived, could you shoot to kill? Before you answer, don't, because it's a trick question. Only those of us who've been there know. And for those of you who thought, hell yeah, man, I'd shoot to kill, the truth is, history and science are not on your side. In his book, On Killing, psychologist Lieutenant Colonel Grossman estimates that only 10 to 15% of trained men and women actually shoot to kill. Throughout history, 10 to 15%, that suggests to me that we're not wired to kill. If we were wired to kill, why wouldn't that number be higher? If we were wired to kill automatically, why would our military have to spend so much time, money, and resources on training us to kill? They could just give us a rifle and go. And not just our military, but all militaries around the globe throughout history, 10 to 15%. However, we do get temporary spikes. Temporary spikes. For example, Pacific Theater in World War II, we get these spikes around 50%. How? How do we increase that killing percentage? One big way, we must unleash the berserker. Anyone? Berserkers? A couple? Awesome. ancient Norway, before the Vikings even, these legendary warriors carried huge, heavy-bladed weapons. These are not the foils, épées, and sabers of medieval Europe. No, these are gigantic broadswords and battle axes, and they're used for smashing and gashing and slicing and hacking. And these berserkers wore bear skins, because presumably they killed a bear. They didn't kill a bunch of rabbits and make a vest out of it. No, they killed a bear. And they wear this bear skin because it protects them against the elements. After all, it is ancient Norway, and it protects them against the enemy's blades. And yet, in the heat of battle, these berserkers would throw off their bear skins and go berserk. That's one of the places we get the word from. A single berserker could change the entire course of battle. All one need do is read Shakespeare's The Scottish play. Fuck it, I'll say it. Macbeth! At the top of Macbeth, he hacks his way through the enemy to get to the traitor and cuts him from the nave to the chops and fixes his head upon our battlements. That's a berserker. That's what's expected of each and every one of us that signs the line. Water purification specialist, nurse, or infantryman. But how? How do you get that from that? Well, one of the best ways, it turns out, is camaraderie. One of the best ways to build camaraderie is combat. Iraq, 8 years ago, a Marine squad, mechanized, that means they're on vehicles, driving through a city in Iraq, lead vehicle, as happens so often, but we saw so rarely on TV, disintegrated by an IED, improvised explosive device. Now remember my battle drill. Return fire, take cover, fire maneuver, eliminate the threat. However, they're in the middle of a city, and there's what's called the rules of war. They can't just return fire in every direction. They will kill innocent men, women, and children who had nothing to do with the IED. So instead, they hold fire, pull a perimeter, begin taking fire from a window about 250 meters away. They fire a rocket, blow up the room. And just like I did a little bit ago, they send a squad around to clear room by room to get to the location from where they were taking fire. The point man, 18 years of age, in country about 2 weeks, kicks in the door. Strewn about are insurgents. Notice the language. Insurgents, not people. First guy, clearly dead. Second guy, nothing but a torso, also clearly dead. Third guy, intact. Point man kicks him, guy says, groans. He says, shit, this one's still alive. Shoots him 3 times, says, you're dead now, fucker. One of his squad mates had one of those GoPro action camera helmets, or cameras on his helmet, videotaped it, released it online. The world called for this young man's head, and he was in fact put up on murder charges. He's not alone. There's been more than a few individuals and entire squads. Some have been found guilty. Now, I am not suggesting that we throw out the rules of war, nor am I suggesting that we summarily execute wounded POWs or healthy POWs. I am, however, offering that there's a different truth for those of us on the ground fighting than there is back here in good old safe US of A, where we don't even know there's a war going on. And what that truth is if this point man steps over this guy, he may be committing a cardinal sin. He may be leaving his brother behind him to be killed. Because what's been happening in every war we fought, the people we're fighting are not following the rules of war. He could be hiding an explosive vest, a grenade, a pistol, a rifle, and his brother behind him gets killed as a cardinal sin, because that's who we fight for. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers and sisters. For he or she that sheds his blood with me is my brother, more than my brother who used to beat my ass back home. Yes, I swore an oath to duty, honor, country. I did my duty, I love my country, and I served and discharged honorably. But to kill for those, it's a bit too ethereal for my working class brain. But for my brothers and sisters on my left and right, hell yeah. Because that's how I'm getting home. That's how they're getting home. So if this point man steps over this guy, following the rules of war, and his brother behind him gets, no. Pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed this costly blood. Over thy wounds now do I prophesy, which, like dumb mouths, do ope their ruby lips to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar, that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hand of war, all pity choked with custom of fell deeds, and Caesar's spirit ranging for revenge, with Ate by his side, come hot from hell, shall in these confines with a monarch's voice cry, Havoc! And let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men groaning for burial. That'll do it. That'll unleash the berserker in nearly anyone. I know that when Marcus was killed, that was an American that shot him, and I stripped my top off and I went after him. They had to pull me from the range, and I know I would. This battle that I described of the Marines unit lasted about 8.5 minutes. Imagine that, 8.5 minutes every day, all day for a 6-month tour or a year-long tour, or anticipating that 8.5 minutes down every hallway, down around every corner, down every alleyway and street corner, every Doritos bag possibly being a IED to launch this. And then, without any retraining or rewiring, coming back home with the instincts that kept them alive over there, but are unuseful and unwanted back home. And then know this, that only 2.5 million men and women fought these 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That means the vast majority served multiple tours. So how do they go from a tour, no rewiring, come home, and then go back for a second tour, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and sixth, which is not uncommon, by the way? What happens to the rules of war on my 5th tour when yet another one of my brothers or sisters is killed from one person in the middle of a crowded marketplace? Do I say, excuse me, could you help me apprehend the person who did this? Because I need to follow the rules of war. Yes, I know you consider us the invaders, and you probably know the person who did this or are related to them or more afraid of them than us, but could you help me apprehend them? No. To our best mercy, give yourselves, or like 2 men proud of destruction, defy us to our worst. For as I am a soldier, a name that in my thoughts becomes me best, if I begin the battery once again, I will not leave the half-achieved Harfleur till in her ashes she lie buried. The gates of mercy shall be all shut up, and the fleshed soldier, rough and hard of heart, in liberty of bloody hand shall range, mowing like grass your fresh, fair virgins and your flowering infants. What is to me when you yourselves are cause, if your pure maidens fall into the hand of hot and forcing violation? Therefore, you men of Harfleur, take pity of your town and of your people, whilst yet my soldiers are in my command, whilst yet the cool and temperate wind of grace o'erblows the filthy and contagious clouds of heady murder, spoil, and villainy. If not, why in a moment look to see the blind and bloody soldier with foul hand defile the locks of your shrill, shrieking daughters, your fathers taken by the silver beards, and their most reverend heads dashed to the walls, your naked infants spitted upon pikes, whilst the mad mothers with their howls confused do break the clouds, as did the wives of Jewry at Herod's bloody hunting slaughtermen. What say you? Will you yield, and this avoid, or guilty in defense be thus destroyed? This is no idle threat that Henry's making. He will give the actual ancient order of havoc and let his men rape, pillage, and burn. And just so we don't think, oh, right, that was from ye olden times, Shakespeare's day, right? My lord and my lady and havoc, yeah? No. What about the My Lai massacre in Vietnam? For those of you who don't know, during the American war in Vietnam, there was a village called My Lai. And an American patrol had to pass by it every single day. And every single day they were ambushed, sniped at, or booby-trapped. And one day, one too many of their brothers was killed. They gave the order, marched down into My Lai, burned it to the ground, and executed everyone, men, women, and children. And just so we don't think, well, right, that was Vietnam War, right? There was a draft, there were drugs, it was crazy time. What about Abu Ghraib in Iraq? Just to pick one from that war. What about the Special Forces sergeant in Afghanistan who had served 4 tours? And during his 5th tour, during that Quran burning business, if you're a news junkie like me, there was that wacko in Florida burning Qurans, which caused a spike in attacks against Americans in Afghanistan. And during his 5th tour, in that mess, one of his brothers was killed that day, and that night, he marched out into the community and executed 16 people in their sleep. Men, women, and children. And just so we don't think, well, right, that's a crazy vet, right? It was 5 tours, of course. Shit happens. It was a war. What about bombs, who create what we call collateral damage, the sterilized term for the killing of innocent men, women, and children? Bombs in and of themselves are havoc. They don't discriminate. They don't say, right, combatants, non-combatants, die, live. No, they may not take our fathers by the silver beards and dash their most reverend heads to the walls. They bring the walls to their heads. They may not spit babies upon pikes, but they crush them in their cribs. So havoc is alive and well wherever there's combat, and yes, even at the hands of the United States military. And aren't I just a ball of cheer on this Tuesday evening? Aren't you glad you traveled to Queens to hear me talk about this? But I'm just telling you the truth as I know it. And the men and women that I've served with and that I've been working with for the past 20 years know it. Now, someone who doesn't even threaten havoc and just is a berserker and brings it wherever he goes is Coriolanus, an actual ancient... A big fan, I see. Are you family? Coriolanus, they're the ones who offered to pay my loans. I love you. Say whatever you want. Coriolanus is an actual ancient Roman general, pre-Julius Caesar, and another one of Shakespeare's veterans. And the deeds of Coriolanus should not be uttered feebly. It is held that valor is the chiefest virtue and most dignifies the haver, if it be. The man I speak of cannot in the world be singly counterpoised. At 16 years of age, he fought beyond the mark of others, slew 3 opposers, and in that day's dread feats, when he might act the woman in the scene, proved best man in the field, and for his meed was browbound with the oak. His pupil age, man entered thus. He waxed like a sea, and in the brunt of 17 years of battle, he lurched all swords of the garland. For this last I cannot speak him home. His sword, death's stamp. Where it did mark, it took. From face to foot he was a thing of blood, whose every motion was timed with dying cries. Alone he entered the mortal gate of the city, which he painted with shunless destiny. Alone came out, and with a sudden reinforcement, struck Corioli like a planet. Now all's his, when, by and by, the din of war gan pierce his ready sense. Then straight his doubled spirit requickened what in flesh was fatigate. And to the battle came he, where he did run, reeking o'er the lives of men, as if 'twere a perpetual spoil. And till we called both field and city ours, he never stood to ease his breast with panting. That's Coriolanus. That's what's expected of each and every one of us that signs a line. And that's a berserker. When I first read Coriolanus, the first name that popped in my head was Henry Lincoln Johnson. Anyone? Anyone? One. For shame. He's local. All right. World War I, 1917, the vasty fields of France. You have a role to play in this story of Henry Lincoln Johnson. You must be the Germans, not the Nazi Germans. Sieg Heil! Nein, I would not do that to you. No, that would be cruel. No, you are the Prussian Germans, yeah? You have fancy handlebar mustaches. Even the women tonight have fancy handlebar mustaches. And you have these black helmets with fabulous spears on top. And you have a 5-shot German Mauser rifle. It's bolt action, by the way. So it goes bang, clunk, 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 bang, clunk, 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 clunk. 5 bullets, and reloading is a biatch. And you are in a trench. This is the age of trench warfare. And you are aiming across no man's land. At me, the French, in my trench. And we have apparently a bad cartoon villain accent. And we have a 3-shot rifle and blue helmets. We know who's on what side. And every so often, someone on our side blows a whistle. Yeah? We charge at you while you mow us down with covered and concealed positions, artillery, landmines, hand grenades, until there's so few of us to continue attacking that we blow the retreat whistle. We turn around and we run back to our trench. But apparently tonight we chasse back to our trench. And the next day, someone on your side blows a whistle. You attack us. We mow you down and you run back to your trench. By 1917, 14 million people have died in this style of warfare. 14 million. Meanwhile, back here in New York City, Henry Lincoln Johnson is 5'5", 115 pounds. He's roughly the size I was as a freshman in high school, but he's around 19 years of age. We don't know his exact age because he fled the Deep South during the epidemic lynchings during the late 1890s and early 1900s, if you know your American history. Epidemic lynchings. Henry Lincoln Johnson, 5'5", 115 pounds, dark-skinned African-American man, fled the Carolinas and wound up here in New York, where he reported to the 369th Infantry Brigade in Harlem, an all-black regiment. And because they're an all-black regiment, they cannot serve alongside an American white regiment, because it's still segregated until up around the Korean War. But remember, 14 million dead, the French are saying, we did not care about melanin content. Bring us troops, President Wilson. So President Wilson sends a 369th to serve alongside the French units, and they give them their blue helmets so they know which side they're on, the 3-shot French label rifle, and Henry Lincoln Johnson had acquired a 18.5-inch bolo knife, and they gave him a belt, just like this one. But instead of a mic, it's a bolo knife. Yeah? And he's in a trench, and they say, aim that way. Welcome to the war. The second night in country, Henry Lincoln Johnson and Needham Roberts, his buddy, are put out on what's called LPOP, listening post, observation post. It's early warning against night attacks. So Henry Lincoln Johnson, at 5'5", 115 pounds, taking a rifle that's 4.5 feet tall, with bayonet, it's taller than he is, and a case of grenades, and his buddy, Needham Roberts. And they have to crawl out into no man's land at night, quietly, because if you hear us, you'll send up a flare and ruin our night permanently, shall we say. They crawl out to the LPOP, which is nothing more than some duckboard platform surrounded by some rusty barbed wire, and they prevent a night attack, because by this time you had perfected night raids. You send 25 of your most highly trained soldiers to capture, torture, and kill these LPOPs. Not only does it wreak havoc on the psyche of the men in the trench who are trying to sleep, but it leaves them open to a night attack. So Henry and Needham are there, their second night in country, and they hear a noise. Now, what would you do? Would you? Or, out of a sense of camaraderie for your brothers sleeping in the trench, do what Needham Roberts did, which is crawls out to see if it's the Boche Germans. It is. He comes running back. It's the Boche Germans. All hell breaks loose. 25 versus 2. Ooh, they start throwing grenades at each other, firing. Needham Roberts is immediately upended by one-year grenades. His legs are useless, but he's lying on his back, still throwing grenades at you. Henry Lincoln Johnson fires once into the pitch-black darkness, twice, bang, clunk, clunk. Third round, into the chest of a German leaping over the barbed wire at him, point blank, boom, shoots him dead in the chest. Guy falls at his feet. Right behind him, another German leaping over the barbed wire. Henry Lincoln Johnson, 5'5", 115 pounds, now out of bullets, grabs his rifle that's as tall as he is, like a baseball bat, and boom, smashes the guy in the head, knocks him unconscious. 5'5", 115 pounds, Henry Lincoln Johnson begins running around the battlefield, swinging his rifle like a baseball bat while you shoot him, stab him, and throw grenades. Look familiar? Ah! Henry turns to see if Needham is all right. Needham has been surrounded by 4 Germans. One is strangling him. The other 3 are dragging him off to capture, torture, and kill him. Henry Lincoln Johnson turns to rescue Needham Roberts. One of the Germans he knocked out has come to, starts firing his pistol, hits Henry 3 times. Left forearm, left thigh, right hip. Drops to his knees in a pain I can't even imagine, much less describe to you here this evening. Henry turns around to find the German pointing the pistol point blank at his head. Henry pulls out his bolo knife and disembowels the German. The German's guts fall out. He drops to his knees. Henry stands up over him. Now here's where a little bit of myth creeps in. Because according to Henry, the German said in perfect English, The son of a bitch got me. I'm going to give it to him. I wasn't there. But we do know, by all accounts, that Henry yelled, "Yeah, and if you get up this black son of a bitch, I'll get you again." Buries his bolo knife so deeply in the German's head, it cuts his cap in half. Boots the head off the blade, runs, hacking his way through Germans to get to Needham Roberts, butchers the largest one that's strangling him, while the other three wisely blow the retreat whistle and run away. The remaining that are left alive drag their battered, bleeding bodies off the battlefield. One stops to look back. Henry throws a grenade at him, covers Needham Roberts, evaporates the last remaining German. Henry Lincoln Johnson, 5'5", 95 pounds, or 115 pounds, mixing it up. He grabs Needham Roberts. He's now wounded 23 times, by the way. Grabs a much larger Needham Roberts and drags him back to the LPOP. And in classic American fashion, the reactionary team arrives to save the day, led by Corporal London. Henry says, "Corporal London, turn out the guard," and passes out. Henry and Needham are taken to a French hospital because they cannot be treated alongside American whites. And in the hospital, Henry and Needham receive the French Cross of War, the highest honor a non-French soldier can receive. Henry Lincoln Johnson is the first American to receive this award. Not the first black American, the first American. Needham, the second. They spend 2 weeks in the hospital, then they volunteer to return to the trench out of a sense of camaraderie. When they hit the trench, it's the beginning of the all-out Allied assault to push through the German resistance towards the Rhine River. The 369th never gives up an inch of ground, and they are the first to reach the Rhine River after 170 straight days and nights of fighting, much of it up close and personal, hand-to-hand combat. First unit to reach the Rhine, and for that they are given the Regimental Cross of War. For that they are also given the moniker the Harlem Hellfighters. Henry Lincoln Johnson receives the moniker Black Death. Then, at 11 a.m. on November 11th, which we just celebrated, the armistice, which has become Veterans Day. But in 1917, they sent him home. So good luck with that. After 172 straight days of hell, go on home. I'm not even going to get into the home that Henry Lincoln Johnson came to. You know, the one where he can't drink out of a water fountain with white people who never served their country? Or eat at a counter with white people who never served their country. I'm not even going to get into that. I want to know how Henry comes home after 172 straight days and nights of hell, lies down at night and gets a full night's sleep with soft I did but dream. Coward conscience, how dost thou afflict me? Cold, fearful drops stand on my trembling flesh. What do I fear myself? There's none else by. Is there a murderer here? Nope. Yeah. I am. Methought the souls of all that I had murdered came to my bed, and every one did threat tomorrow's vengeance on the head of. Even 15 years after I got out of the military, I didn't sleep right. I would get about 2.5, 4.5 on a really good night, maybe 5 or 6 if I drank enough. And I would rarely spend more than a couple nights in a row next to a young lady because I'd beaten, bobbed, and thumped several. I'd even choked a couple. It's dangerous, impossible to explain, and embarrassing. One night, I'm lying next to this amazing woman named Dawn, way out of my league, by the way. And I had my doozy, the one where I, when I have that one, I am up. I have to start drinking right away because I am fucked. It might be a few hours, might be a few days, even a couple of weeks. I am just wrecked. And I had it lying next to her. I sat up and she grabbed my face, which I don't recommend doing to a veteran in that state. But she did. And she said, "Stephan, you're home. You're safe. Go back to sleep." And I did. And I slept the rest of the night, which I had never done before. And the next morning I said, Dawn, you marry me or I will kill you. Oh, I don't even kill bugs anymore. I capture spiders and release them outside. But I did propose. And she said, yes, but there are 25 million living veterans. They don't all have a Dawn. What about the ones that don't have that? It's no wonder that countless wives, husbands find their spouse up in the middle of the night, staring out into the darkness. Oh, my good Lord, why are you thus alone? Tell me, sweet Lord, what is that takes from thee thy stomach pleasure and thy golden sleep? Why dost thou bend thine eyes upon the earth and startle so often when thou sittst alone? In thy faint slumbers I by thee have watched, and heard thee murmur tales of iron wars. Cry, courage, to the field. And thou hast talked of prisoners' ransom and of soldiers slain, and all the currents of a heavy fight. Thy spirit within thee hath been so at war, and thus hath so bestirred thee in thy sleep, that beads of sweat have stood upon thy brow, like bubbles in a late disturbed stream. And in thy face strange motions have appeared, such as we see when men restrain their breath on some great sudden hest. Oh, what portents are these? Some heavy business hath my Lord in hand, and I must know it, else he loves me not. We've always had women fighting in our wars from the very beginning. From the Revolutionary War to the Civil War, many, many, many women disguised themselves as men because the uniform allowed them to do so. Another way they served was, they were called Molly pitchers. They carried pails of water. This is a stick, by the way. They carried pails at the end of a stick, and they carried it up through the hail of bullets and cannon fire to deliver to the men. And if someone died on the firing line of the cannon, the women would take over. And now our Department of Defense has authorized that women may officially serve in the combat zones of which they've been serving. And that same Department of Defense has also acknowledged that 1 in 3 female service members has survived military sexual trauma. 1 in 3. So how do I, as a female service member, go through combat, the same combat that the men are going through, and survive rape? And by the way, the majority of it is by rank. Higher NCO, higher officer, survive rape by rank, then come home without any wiring or rewiring to deal with that, and then remember multiple tours. Go back and serve another tour under that commander, that NCO. To whom should I complain? If I did tell this, who would believe me? So, I can't sleep, I can't talk to my family, and I can't talk to my chain of command. What do? I know what I did before dawn. I drank a lot. I preferred to call it self-medication because alcohol always helps me make better decisions. And it calms my fighting reflex right down because the best place for me in the middle of a post-traumatic stress disorder moment was a crowded bar with lots of alcohol, yeah? Loud noises, strange people, or the worst day of the year, the 4th of July. A backyard, right? Backyard barbecue on the 4th of July. Now, I didn't go through a moiety of what Henry Lincoln Johnson went through, and I hate the 4th of July. So how does Henry Lincoln Johnson, after 172 straight days and nights of hell, come home, go to his neighbor's backyard barbecue on the 4th of July with fireworks in every direction? Hey, Henry, how you doing? Pretty good. Hey, you want a beer? Yeah, please. Hey, where you been, man? France, actually. Oh, yeah? What were you doing there? There was a war on, actually. Oh, yeah? Hey, tell me, were you in the shit? Did you ever kill anyone? You should never, ever actually ask a veteran that. Come on, man, tell me. Come on. You defended democracy. You defended America, our freedoms. You should be proud. Come on, did you ever kill anyone? Did you ever kill anyone? Come on, fuck off, right? Oh, real nice. Come to my party and talk like that. Saying the F word in front of my kids? This is my party. They're right there. How dare you? Why can't you guys just come back and get over it, huh? Why can't you just come back, talk nice, fit in, and speak pleasantly, huh? Why can't you do that? Because he that would give good words to thee would flatter beneath abhorring. Veteran, what would you have, you curs that like nor peace nor war? The one affrights you, the other makes you proud. He that trusts to you, where he should find you lions, finds you hares. Where foxes, geese. He that depends upon your favors swims with fins of lead and hews down oaks with rushes. Hang ye! Trust ye? With every minute you do change your mind and call him noble that was now your hate, him vile that was your garland. What's the matter? You common cry of curs, whose breaths I hate, as do reek of the rotting fens, whose loves I prize as the dead carcasses of unburied men that do corrupt my air. I banish you, and here remain with your uncertainty. Let every feeble rumor shake your hearts. Your enemies, with waving of their flags, fan you into despair, till your ignorance deliver you, as most abated captives, to some nation that won you without blows, despising for you this city. Thus I turn my back. There is a world elsewhere. And I'm the veteran who's so afraid of my war wiring, I leave everything behind. You probably stepped over me on the corner on your way here. I have my piss-soaked pants and tattered cardboard sign that reads, "I'm a vet, please help." We all pretty much do the same thing. Oh, sorry, oh God, you stink. Don't look me in the eyes. Don't ask me for money. Or I'm the veteran who keeps his war wiring. Like the young man in Washington State who returned home from combat, went to a party, got into an argument with his friends at the party, shot 4 of his friends, fled the scene, crashed through the gate at Rainier National Park, was pursued by the park ranger, killed the park ranger because they train us well, then stripped naked, marched up Mount Rainier and took his own life. When peasants die, there are no comets seen. For those of us who die quietly with our honor intact, Arlington National Cemetery, where the deceased veterans are laid and interred. The sprawling green campus is not unlike the campuses I saw in the college catalogs, perfectly manicured hedges and lawns, but instead of being covered in gorgeous college co-eds, it's perfectly aligned with gravestones representing the deceased veterans. The newly deceased descend their aircraft in flag-draped coffins and come by convoy, led by their commander, to be buried at Arlington. Hail, Rome, victorious in thy mourning weeds. Behold the poor remains, alive and dead. We that survive, let Rome reward with love these that we bring unto their latest home, with burial among their ancestors. O sacred receptacle of our joy, sweet cell of virtue and nobility, how many of our sons and daughters hast thou in store that thou wilt never render to us more? In peace and honor rest you here. Henry Lincoln Johnson, hero of World War I, just this past spring, posthumously received the Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest award that the United States can give to a soldier, sailor, Air Force airman, or woman, or Marine, or Coast Guard. It's for uncommon valor. And yet, during his lifetime, Henry Lincoln Johnson received no awards, no honors. His story was used to sell war bonds, but he was dead by the age of 33. He drank himself to death. And when he died at the age of 33, he was suffering what today we'd call post-traumatic stress disorder, was a severe alcoholic, was estranged from his family, wife and kids, was penniless and homeless. In peace and honor rest you here, Henry, free from worldly chances and mishaps. Here lurks no treason. Here no envy swells. Here grow no damned drugs. Here are no storms, no noise, but silence and eternal sleep. In peace and honor rest you here. Honor, cries a veteran from the crowd, wondering what he's to do between his time in the service and his time in the grave. Yeah, honor pricks me on. But how if honor pricks me off again once I come on? How then, huh? Can honor mend an arm? Can it? No. Or a leg? Nope. Or take away the grief of a wound? No. Honor hath no skill in surgery then? No. Well, what is honor? A word. And what is in that word? Honor, 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 honor. Ere a trim reckoning. And who hath it? Who hath it? He and she that died on Wednesday. But can he feel it? No. Can she hear it? Let's see. Hello, honor. Anything? Nope. 'Tis insensible then? Yea, to the dead? Doth it not live on then in the living? No. Why? Detraction will not suffer it. Therefore I'll none of it. Honor? Honor. It's a mere scutcheon. So ends my catechism. Los Angeles, 9 years ago now. 9 years ago, Los Angeles. I am catering. Hello, fellow caterers. I can always tell by that maniacal laughter you have. I am catering a tea party, not the political tea party. You're going to be okay. You've done the same party, I see. I am catering a tea party, not the political tea party, but a Disney princess tea party. These gorgeous little 4, 5, and 6-year-old girls are dressed in their Disney princess gowns, and they're running by these gigantic tables piled high with frosted, sugary goodness disguised as cake, and they grab fistfuls of it, and they jam it somewhere near their mouths, and they throw the rest on the ground. And my job as a caterer is to bend over and pick up these saliva-strewn balls. And as I bent over to pick it up, I saw my hand as it was when I served in the military. I saw the dirt and gun oil actually in the cracks of my hands, and I blinked and it was gone, and saw what it was doing. It was a kick in the groin. These hands that served this country, that held my best friend's head together, handed several folded flags to weeping family members, called in airstrikes, medevacs, saluted people that were calling me sir and looking me in the eyes, and now I'm picking up. And as I knelt there for I don't know how long, I might have been kneeling 0.3 of a second, 3 minutes, I have no idea. A little girl walked up, looked me right in the eyes, the first one all day to look me in the eyes, and she threw her cake at me. And my body's reaction, not my thought, my body's impulse was crush her skull. I lurched at her. I caught myself. I didn't hit her. I caught myself. We locked eyes, horrified. She turned, ran, screaming to her mother. More horrified, I pulled myself up, ran to my Jeep in the parking ramp, drove home to my apartment in Venice, locked the door, pulled out my sawed-off shotgun, opened up the breech, jammed a shell in, closed the breech, rocked back the hammer. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing and them to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation, devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep. To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, to sweat and grunt under a weary life, but that for the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others we know not of. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. And to this day, there's a part of me that feels a coward that I didn't pull the trigger. I can hear my brother, other people going, pussy, pull the trigger. But why? Why did I want to kill myself? It wasn't the catering. Wasn't entirely the catering. I believe it's because now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York. Now are our bruised arms hung up for monuments, and now what? I believe it's because we're wired for war, but not unwired from war, not rewired for society. You know, when I went into the military, I had a recruiter that helped prepare me for life in the military. But when I got out, where was my DE-cruiter to help prepare me for life after the military? And I know people say, well, the VA, isn't that what it's for? Well, no. I want to say, honestly, I am not here to tag on the VA. I know there's scandals, I know there's problems, but there's a great many veterans getting a great deal of good from the VA. There's more good than bad, and it's better than the alternative, so let me just say that. But what most people don't know is we are not automatically signed up for the VA. And it's a somewhat laborious process, as some of us have heard and know of. And even for those of us who go through that process, we are not automatically covered by the VA. And even for those who are, the VA does not de-recruit. And if I'm wrong about needing de-recruitment, who's catering your kid's party? If I'm wrong about de-recruiting, why are 22 veterans killing themselves every day? 22 a day. That's one every hour and 9 minutes? That means in the time I started speaking to you, someone who served this country took their own life, and by this moment, another one has. Southwestern United States, the Lakota Nation and Navajo Nation. It is my understanding that they keep their veterans outside of the community, put them through a series of rituals and cleanses, and then when they bring them into the community, it's not a ticker tape parade that lasts a couple of hours and then, see you later, don't bug me anymore, but rather the entire community gathers, and they take responsibility for their veterans. They say, your grief is my grief. Your joy is my joy. If I'm eating, I'm making sure you're fed. If I'm driving somewhere, I'm seeing if you need a ride. If I don't hear from you, I'm knocking on your door. 2015, Tuesday night, New York City, LaGuardia Community Center, college. The Little Theater. Now what? Now what?
Yesterday, I met a friend of mine. I haven't seen him for a while. Well, how you been? How about a drink or two? We both answered with a smile.